Hey guys, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk you through how to play with a Restoration Druid healer. By this, I mean as a DPS. So we all know by now, if you've been watching this channel for a little while, that I main Restoration Druid. I've mained Restoration Druid for pretty much all of Dragonflight and a little bit of Shadowlands. I've achieved 2.1k in solo shuffle on multiple druids, and I've achieved this pretty much right the way through from Dragonflight Season 1 in 2s, so I like to think I have a good idea on how to play Druid. Currently, I'm trying to push for Glad and Elite in the Legend title in solo shuffle, and I'm going to share with you the best tips as a DPS so that you can maximize your chances of winning with your Restoration Druid healer. Now, we all know a Druid healer is one of the best HPS healers in the game right now. They are particularly squishy, but they have a lot of utility that, if put with the right team, are incredibly strong. We have casts such as Nature Swiftness, Rejuvenation, Cenarian Ward, Life Bloom, Treant, Cyclone, and Ironback, to just name a few. Now, what you really want to think about as a DPS when you're playing with a Druid, first of all, is gatekeeping. Now, gatekeeping is a fundamental part for any healer, because if your healer's CC'd or taking damage, the chances of them healing you are very, very slim. So the number one thing that I kind of want to talk today about when you're playing with Restoration Druid is how to protect your Druid. If you think of yourself as a, let's say, goalkeeper in football, or if you don't like football, you can think of something else, but I think it's a good example to use in this video. What you want to do is always kind of position yourself in front of the healer, so you're stopping kind of any direct attempt or pass at them gaining CC on the healer. So if you see, for example, the enemy healer running through, I see this all the time in solo shuffle, they shouldn't be running through the middle of the melee cleave or the spellcasters without getting some form of CC or interrupt. This is a number one thing you want to do as a DPS to protect your Druid, because Druids have very little defensives besides mobility and Ironbark, Barkskin, and Bear Form. This is the number one thing, like I said, you want to do to protect the Druid and reduce any CC, because the uptime the Druid has on heals, the better, the more chance you are to win the game in general, which sounds kind of common sense. But when you're playing with evokers that have Nullifying Shroud and Holy Priest and Disc Priest, what have Fade, Shamans that have Grounding Totems, you can really see why Druids aren't set up the best defensively, particularly in solo shuffle and freeze, where it can get a little bit chaotic for the Druid, particularly when you're taking widespread party damage. So try and position yourself always in front of the healer. Don't, if there's a caster sat near your healer, focus that caster. Don't let the caster be getting CC or traps if it's a hunter on your Druid. I see this mistake all the time. You want to be positioning yourself to protect your Druid. If your Druid's alive, you're going to be alive. So I think that's the kind of number one thing that we need to kind of get out there. The next thing that we should probably talk about is Druid defensives. Druid has very poor defensives in terms of recovery. All we've really got is Ironbark, and while we have some of the best healing in the game for raw healing per second, we don't really have very good recovery tools. So this is another kind of big thing, is it's using your cooldowns properly. The Ironbark is on a 1.5 minute cooldown, and if you're playing with a warrior, a DH, blur, you've got blur parry, you need to make sure you don't overlap these. If you overlap these early, it can literally cost you your game. So if you see your Druid in CC, as a rule of thumb, throw out that parry, throw out that blur, throw out that pet sack or the Blessing of Protection or your wall, and then the Druid can use the Ironbark for their next go. Don't just throw out your wall to a normal damage rotation. Try and make those trades with big CDs, and this is super important because the chances are the Druid can heal you through those CDs alone. Now, a Druid can also use clone defensively. So if your Druid, say you're playing the melee cleave like in this video, and your Druid decides to clone the DH on Blur. Don't get mad, switch target. What the Druid's doing here is effectively disabling the DH on Blur. So any DPS that says, why did you do that, has got tunnel vision and isn't seeing the bigger picture of the game, because ultimately what that Blur is doing is we're stopping the DH continuing damage while he's got a cooldown what you're not going to kill through. So this is actually a really good thing. And effectively attacking healers as well can be a really good defensive for a Druid. So if you're against an Evoker or a Holy Priest, which is particularly tough for a Druid, you want to be making regular switches onto the Evoker to just mitigate the chances of your Druid getting CC'd when it's Nullifying Shroud and Sleep. So try and use those cooldowns properly, guys. The next thing I want to talk about is peeling. Now, peeling with a Druid, by this, I don't mean sitting there and peeling a banana. I mean protecting your Druid. So Druids are particularly squishy, and they're really easy to counter by swapping onto them when they've not got any hots, and it's super hard to catch up. So as soon as a Druid goes bear form, you want to be running in and stunning the DPS or fearing, using some sort of crowd control to help your Druid peel, because if your Druid's in bear form, they are not going to be healing. This is kind of the number one thing, because all Druid's really got is Barkskin and bear form, and let me tell you, it is not the best. So the Druid needs to root, needs good teammates to peel. If you've got any sort of CC fear, you can use that. You don't necessarily need to CC the healer in shuffle or in late dampening games with Druid to win. And effectively, Druids win most long games just through their ability to heal into dampening and their good use of cyclones. So it's really important to keep an eye on your healer and just make sure that you're protecting them and you're not just letting them face tank a DH whilst you're single targeting the one DPS and not focusing on what's going around you. And this is kind of gatekeeping, kind of relates to the positioning, but you've got to think about where you're going. Now, whilst Druids do have a really big range, it's really important that you understand that if your healer's going to get CC'd, you've got no cooldowns, or if you're going to charge in and line of sight your healer, the chances are you're going to throw the game. So you need to be really aware of where your healer is, how you're positioned on the map, what target you're attacking at all times with Druid, because like I say, it's an unforgiving healer when it comes to them taking damage. And if you're out of line of sight and the Druid's trying to catch up and it takes 3 or 4 globals to get all the hots on you, if the Druid's not got overgrowth and you've got no defensive, you're pretty much through the game. So you need to be really aware what hots you've got on you before you push in what cooldowns the enemy has. So some weaknesses of a Restoration Druid that you need to really be aware of is kind of purging effects. So anything that has a spell steal, such as a mage or a shaman, another purge effects which an evoker has, a holy priest, a disc priest, shadow priest, can be really deadly and difficult for a druid. They're constantly going to get purged, so the druid is going to spend nearly all the time just trying to keep the hots up. So this is where you need to really effectively focus and switch the targets that are purging, just to kind of maximize your druid's uptime for healing, and you really win this by damaging. So selecting the right target when you're playing with a druid healer is absolutely fundamental to your success when playing with one. Hunters as well also have tranquilizing shots, and this should be something that if there's a marksmanship hunter, you need to focus that hunter, because if he's not trank shotting your druid's having a good time, keeping you healed, and can then maybe get some CC and lock down the win for your team. Now, these are obviously some really important things to know with a druid. Obviously the druid does have incarn as well, but this tree incarn, it's not really a cooldown to save you. It's pretty much part of a druid's maximum healing cycle. they're going to use it on cooldown and trade it into the burst ghost pretty much, or just to simply catch up. So don't think of this as like a big CD that's going to save you. Think of it as more as a tool that the druid has to use efficiently in order to get to those late game stages into the dampening where you're going to win. And the druid isn't necessarily 100% safe with it, and maximizing uptime of all the heals whilst in that form is going to lead to the success of your team winning. Finally, I think some really good things to mention are that a druid is particularly weak into really aggressive comps. So a Disc Priest, for example, can fort steal, spam purges, fist weavers can make the team generate too much mana for the druid to heal, and it's really not too much mana, too much damage for the team to heal, and it can be really difficult for the druid to heal. So I think from this kind of short video, the maximum takeaway is think about your positioning, peel and use your cooldowns appropriately for the druid. You need to think about your positioning, where you are on the map, not letting any other player sit on top of your druid and just CC him until kingdom comes, and then blame your healer and just say just heal. Because if you're doing that, you don't really know how to play your class, and you're making the druid's life even harder than it already is in the current meta of evokers and holy priests. So get out there, guys, put these tips into practice and let me know how you do with your druid healers. In the meantime, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, hit that sub button and don't forget to head over to Twitch, which is in the link in the description, and be kind, be peaceful, and remember, most of all, you are appreciated. Bye.